Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of About Abroad, where it's my job to introduce you to people who have built amazing lives for themselves in various foreign corners of the globe. We're talking with expats and thought leaders about moving abroad, remote work, visas, and all the fun and practical knowledge that you need to know to follow in their footsteps. If you've ever dreamed of making a life for yourself overseas, maybe working remotely or embracing long-term travel, retiring or studying abroad, or even just taking a peek inside life beyond your borders, you've landed in the right place. My guest today is my new friend, Dean Kuchel, someone that I have been following for a long time and was really excited to finally have on the podcast. He's one of the most well-known digital nomads that I'm aware of out there in the world. He's seen more than 100 different countries and is on a mission to see all 196 of them. I think I got that number right. So he's just a phenomenal person to bring on, talk about the world of digital nomadism. He's also coached and mentored many people and organizations on the concept of remote work and allowing people to work from wherever they want. So we dive into some of that. He's originally from Israel, but really is a global citizen now, calling Bali his home for most of the time and then traveling around the world at a very rapid pace. We talk a little bit about that the rest of the year. So very fun conversation here, just chatting about all things digital nomadism, where it's going, where it's been, and some of the things that we see emerging in that space, and learning a little bit about his personal story. I had a blast. It was a lot of fun, and he's got some amazing things to share. So hope you guys enjoy this one. I certainly did, and I think you will as well. Please help me in welcoming Dean to About Abroad. Man, I have to say, like, it's really funny. When I started this podcast, I intentionally, my thought when I was like scoping it out, like writing out what it was going to look like, I was like, I want to bring on people that I like know from a distance but genuinely don't know. Like they're not actually like friends. They're just like, I kind of know this guy. I kind of know a little bit about his story, but I don't know the backstory. I don't know enough without like diving in and doing my own research, so that we could have these like genuine conversations where I wouldn't be like faking questions. And I feel like today is absolutely one of those days with you here, because I've been following you, Dean, for a long time. I know a lot of the work that you do, but like we've never met before until now. And there's like all this stuff that you're working on that I've like got a lot of questions about that I'm not even sure really where to start. But it's just, I'm stoked for this conversation for sure.
Thank you so much. And I think it's one of the best parts about being a nomad and operating in this space of remote work and future of work. You get to meet amazing people. There is a small community which is so well connected, and your name comes up in a lot of conversations. I see your names on events that I go to. Like I see the same people all the time, and somehow you and I managed to avoid each other for so long, and finally we make it online this time. But I'm sure eventually we'll bump into each other somewhere on this planet.
I hope so, man. I look forward to that. I'm gonna have to really try to up my game to keep up with you. I think, because I was following you recently. I think you said something on like maybe it was on your Instagram or something, where you're like I've only been in 4 countries this month. Like I gotta speed it up or something like that. I don't know if that rings any bells, but you're on the road quite a bit.
Yeah, it was
a machine,
it was a busy
man.
month. Yeah, I travel fast. I'm known for it. I'm trying to slow down, but this is my New Year resolution every year for the last 7 years. Like this year, I'll travel half the countries and half the flights, but I failed miserably year after year. My 2 New Year resolution: travel less and work out more. Happens the reverse way, unfortunately.
We'll check in a year and see how that went in 2023. What's your typical pace? Like, what is on average, what does a month look like for you?
I'll probably visit 2-3 places in a month, in a normal month, not a COVID month. And I mostly travel now to visit friends, attend events for nomads. I was recently in Nomad Base in Cape Town, and then went to Saudi Arabia for the first time, which was incredible. People, culture, Alula, part of part in the desert. I visited friends in Spain and Lithuania. I spent a night in Venice, a few more days in Lisbon to meet some of my nomad friends. And for dessert, I had a week in Croatia working with the Ministry of Tourism to promote one of the regions and to help them to facilitate for remote professionals and digital nomads. So that's what a month might look like. When I don't travel much, I typically spend time in Bali, at least in the last 2.5, 3 years. It's kind of became my base. I know, not very original.
No, but I mean, maybe not original for a reason. I mean, it's a pretty epic place to call your home base, and then you mix in the type of travel that you're doing. I think that's like the way you just described that is what's really interesting to me. Like going from Cape Town to Saudi Arabia, for example, you're not like, okay, I'm gonna do like Germany and France this month, like two adjacent countries. I mean, you're kind of like all over the place, and I don't know if that's by design or do you just like see like what prompts you to go from one place to another? Do you have a plan or is it just like ad hoc? Any list that you're trying to go down? Like I'm genuinely curious.
When you say it this way, I feel like I'm really bad to the environment with all those long haul flights. And I'm trying, I swear to God. But so at first, and I still hold to the mission of visiting all 196 countries of the world. I don't know why I came up with this idea. I think I was either drunk or very bored. And when I'm a man of his word, so I committed to this, and this is it. I'm now on this journey. I've been to 105 now, together with Saudi Arabia and South Africa. And now it's a little bit more planned or programmed because, first of all, I've been to many countries, like all Europe and majority of Central South America. So some places I don't want to go again right now. So yeah, it's like, you're trying to get to the Samoa and Vanuatu of the world, and that's ad hoc. That's not so easy. Before I was traveling both very fast, and yes, like it made sense. You will go from France to Spain, from Spain to Portugal, from Portugal to Morocco. There was some route and path and some sense to it. But now it's more, yes, I'm going to visit friends in Lithuania. I then head to South Africa to meet the community, etc. It's really mostly for people and some business, I would say, everything related to the remote work and digital nomad lifestyle. But it's, if someone says, hey, then come visit, come for dinner, I'll just hop on the plane. And living on a single carry-on, it's so easy to just hop on a plane. I don't have a base, I don't have an apartment or anything to tie me to anywhere. And it's been going for 9 years for me now. So the biggest challenge for me, and it's a real pain, is sometimes, and this is the reason why I'm currently in Israel visiting my family. This is where I'm originally from. It's because I'm here to give a talk in 2 weeks. And I kind of ask myself after Croatia, okay, where do I park myself until this talk in 2 weeks? Like, I didn't know where to go. It's like when you have too many options, I can be anywhere on this planet. So I defaulted to visit my nephews.
They call this I think I've heard it referred to as the paradox of choice. And as obnoxious as it might sound to someone who's like sitting in their cubicle, handcuffed to their mortgage and like dreaming of living 1 week like you live, it's a real thing that I hear tons of nomads and even more so like these days as remote work has kind of been democratized. You got, lots of people with this newfound freedom. I hear people talking about this, how it's like, well, I spend all my brain power now, like analyzing the options, thinking about where I could be, trying to figure out if I should go here or there. And like, what am I going to do with, like, how does this change my approach to work, my approach to planning for retirement, my approach to where I'm going to call my home? Like there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. And the big one is like, where do I go to next? And you could find yourself, thinking about that a lot, but then also like kind of suffering a little bit from like not knowing where that should be and not feeling like you have like a home,
Yeah, well, you won't hear me complain about this really, because I do feel very privileged, and I think you too, excuse me for putting this on you, but traveling the world, I see people not as privileged, and I'm not even talking about where to travel, but access to water or basic human rights. So yeah, I'm not going to complain about it. This paradox of paradox of choice. So until now, and still, we are conditioned that we don't have abundance of options. Like if you want to get a profession, you need to go to school, but the school will tell you, okay, with your sheet of grade and your diploma from high school, you can either study engineering or mathematics. So they kind of direct you in one way or direction. You can be a teacher. And you don't have a choice because they tell you these are the options. But all of a sudden with remote work, where you can just put on your LinkedIn, I'm a content writer, I'm a blogger, I'm a model, and you can be anything you want and no one can call you out. It's, if you want to be a writer, be a writer. I might not like your writing, or I might not like your dancing, or maybe I don't think you're beautiful, but it doesn't make you less of a model. And that created an abundance of options for us, for everyone. And I'm so happy to see this movement is growing. And this is also why, seeing how it created so many opportunities to so many, I think it's now time, and this is kind of where I'm trying to focus more of my energy now, is to bring these opportunities and privileges to the less privileged in the world. I was helping thousands and tens of thousands of people to go remote, to free their mind, to open their mind to different ideas. And I might not be politically correct to say it, but I don't want to help another white American guy to go remote. There are a lot of people helping them, and it's good. But my job there is pretty done. I want to help the girl from India, the guy from Africa, the people that don't have this access by education. Hey, this is how you use a computer. This is how you use Fiverr or other platforms, and here you can change your life with access to such broad remote job market. So, but yeah, you won't hear me complain about my lifestyle, where I'm at in my life right at this stage. I'm 40, so I can talk about my midlife crisis all day, but
it's that time of life.
More important topics, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's we'll use this term for the second time in 5 minutes, but like that whole democratization of opportunity thing is my favorite topic within the whole remote work, future of work conversation. You hear people talking about all the opportunity that it brings in a lot of different ways. And one of the ones that sort of flies under the radar is like the access to opportunity in developing nations and all the trickle down effects that. So I think it's really cool that you're using that privilege. I like to think of it as privilege also. Like, I'm certainly won the privilege contest in a lottery in a lot of different ways. And so I like to recognize that and then see people that are helping lift others up and give them similar opportunities. So it's really cool. You're doing that via what like vehicle are you doing that? Like I know some of your work with like United Nomads and Digital Nomads Israel. Are those the platforms that you're using to raise people up, or is there somewhere else that you're involved?
So at first, I did everything just solo, helping people wherever I go, as I travel, spreading the word, talking to people. But that was not on scale. I could just speak to 5-6 people a day. And then I started to do some public speaking. And this is a big part of what I do now. And I'm very passionate about to spread the word and inspire people to really live their best life and to show them that these opportunities are not for the software developer of the world. And that's how I came to start Digital Nomads Israel, which is just a Facebook group, but it's 37,000 people. It's incredibly engaged. It's all Hebrew content, but I brought it to the mass of people, and really, we together made a change. It's a community, it's a group, it's a tribe. I take a lot of pride of what we built there, and now I want to scale this up even further. And this is why I started a new UN organization, and that's United Nomads. And the idea of United Nomads is first to serve as a moral compass for us digital nomads. If you travel the world, if you are a remote professional, if you engage with other cultures and communities, how we should do it and how can we do it in a respectful manner where we only leave a footprint maybe on the ground and some knowledge with the locals, and it doesn't mean that each one of us need to volunteer in a orphanage now when we get to any place, but it starts with just respect others. We oftentimes come with our big money into low-income countries. Some might sense that they are more deservous or treat others in different, their castes, we are better than them. And it's not everyone, of course, but I want to make it clear and I want to help others. A lot of people just go travel the world for the first time. We live in Western world all our life, and all of a sudden we go to Bali, Indonesia, and we try to educate them. Don't do this, do that. That's actually how you should run your business. That's how you should. No, let's celebrate this uniqueness. Let's ask them, how can we help you? How do you think we may be able to help you? And try to help. Or a lot of times is by doing nothing, do you want to help the oceans to recover? Don't do anything. Just simply leave the ocean alone, it will fix itself. So oftentimes to solve problems, we actually just need not to do. And I'm doing it with United Nomads. It's fairly new. I'm still getting people around. If people are interested, they can look up United Nomads on LinkedIn and Google. And I'm actually gathering people around. This is really not about me. I don't want to be the face of it. It's a movement that should have a lot of faces, very diverse. And I hope that we can put up a set of morals and ideas that many people can adhere to, can agree on, and just travel in really respectful and kind manner. This is our opportunity to really change lives and change the world and make it better for a lot more people. I'm not trying to change everything, and I don't believe I can fix everything in this world. But if each one of us just treat better than the next business and person they work with or sit in a cafe off, that's something. I see the work of Tarek with Skillshare and Nomads Giving Back. There is Alex Altov for helping Pakistani talent. There are many others that doing such amazing work, and I want to see more of it. I want to take a role in this space now, and so that's how I do it. I'm just trying to be kind to everyone, and sometimes it's understanding that I used to, when I was traveling at the beginning, 9 years ago, I would go to Nicaragua. They will try to sell me some nice souvenir in the market, and it would be $1.50, and I would say no, $1, and I'll negotiate. Okay, $1.25, and it's okay. I mean, we all have different phases. I was backpacking back then, and I was on a dime. But looking back now, even then, traveling on a dime for me, this 25 cents or half a dollar I would negotiate with them make no difference for me at the end. Versus changes their life oftentimes. More food, education, and so it's small things that I never paid attention before, and now I see more and more, and I hear. It's not the only things I see. It's mostly things I listen and hear now as I started to open up to these ideas.
Yeah, man. You mentioned Tarek there in Bali and Nomads Giving Back. We had him on the show. I was fascinated kind of learning about all that they're doing and his path to arriving to that point, and the big impact that they're having. And another one that I really like a lot, who's also a previous guest on the show, is Lorraine Charles from Namal. Are you familiar with them? So she's built a program that's backed by MIT and Cambridge that basically is all about helping refugees via remote work. So basically helping refugees from war-torn countries get, not just war-torn, but a lot of times it tends to be from war-torn countries, get remote work, like training, skills, opportunities, the education, everything that they need around that, so that they can have a salary coming in from somewhere else. And it's just like this perfect marriage of a supply and demand situation where you have really talented people who just happen to have been born on the wrong side of some imaginary line and are getting screwed over because of it. And then someone bringing in the right opportunities and just a little bit of education and formalities to say, hey, here's how you can have a very different trajectory of your life. I've had the chance to teach some classes with them and partner with them on some things, and it's like incredibly inspiring. And it's really cool because it brings it back full circle to me about how we talk about a lot of travelers and nomads and stuff. We talk about the economic impact that you might be having on the place. Oh, I go there and I spend $2,000 a month, and that's a good thing economically. And that can be true, but it's probably not changing anybody's life on a very micro level. Collectively, hundreds of millions of dollars coming to a place can have some impact. But when you talk about actually seeing somebody's life change because of the remote work movement, that's very cool and pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I won't criticize those who spend $2,000 in a place. It's every impact is is an impact really. So, and I loved it, and I'll do my research. It's very, very interesting what they do, and it would be great to collaborate with them. So, wow, that's very interesting. And I think this is, for me at least, this is where I'm at. Doing what I do for 9 years now, living this lifestyle. Took me time to have these ideas, because at first I was traveling for myself. It was very much about, look at me, I'm in Bali, I'm in Medellin, I'm in Samoa, I'm diving in, and which is great, and we should continue do it, because this is how we promote this lifestyle and inspire people to live their best life. But then I was like, okay, I'm alone, I'm traveling solo, I want to do it with more people. So from look at me, it was look at we, and I wanted to get more people together. It was about the phase of communities, Digital Nomad Israel, and connecting around communities around the world. And after it was we, now it's my phase of, I call it the phase of us, and it's us as human being, and it's a journey. The beautiful part is the phases, and I'm sure any of the listeners are in different places on this journey. But I hope that everyone in the end will look around and not just on the self and their own spot.
Yeah. So you mentioned that 9 years you've been doing this. So take me back to the beginning. I'm always interested in the origin story. How did Dean 9 years ago transition from whatever you were doing before to being this nomad that's shooting for all countries in the world and currently has seen over 100 of them?
Next question, please. No, I'm kidding. Because I don't have a heroic story, It's nothing heroic. It's really like
By the way, that's cool because I think a lot of people think you have to have that, like, oh, I quit my job and sold everything and, jumped in a camper van and drove across the world. Like, it doesn't have to be some cool heroic story. And I think I've actually met people who never get started because they kind of feel like they have to have that like major life thing happen. And it's like, it doesn't have to be sexy. Like,
so before I tell you the background story, we'll say something to this point. Almost everything that I achieved and have and built happened to me. The fact that I'm on this podcast is because you reached out to me. The fact that I'm a public speaker is because people reached out to me to start giving talks. Community that I have, people ask me, hey, why don't you start a community for us and get us together? So I do a lot of things and I create and I build and I write and I'm an entrepreneur, but it's not, as you said, it's not me sitting in a room and brainstorming with myself and starting to come up with amazing ideas. Just did what I do. Like I just lived my life. And because I've been creating and doing, good things started to come my way. So same with
that's
the
just
remote
being
work.
authentic. That's just being authentic.
I just live my life and, someone asked me, do you want to give a talk? Yes. All right, let's do it. Also, the idea of traveling all 196 countries of the world, that was a seed that was planted in my head where in 2007, I was in Puerto Rico, met with another traveler. I was just traveling for a vacation back then, was still working for a corporate. And I met this guy at a bar and he just told me that this is his life mission. And I never gave it a second thought. And only 2 years ago, I remember this conversation I had with him. And that's the seed that was planted at the back of my head. It's amazing. So 2014, I actually let go of my job for the second time in a row within like a year and a half. And I decided to take a job abroad. I moved to San Francisco for this small tech company. I'm getting a salary, I want to say 5 figures, but it was almost 4 figures, It's like, I just want to move to the States. Again, coming from Israel, I wanted to try something else. And I get a job and within like a month, they tell me, listen, there is a problem with your work permit. It will take much longer to process and to get ready. So go work remote and come back when the visa is ready. So for the next 3-4 months, I go to England and then Portugal and Japan. And I start seeing more people sitting in coffee shops and hey guys, what do you do? Oh, we're digital nomads. Oh, okay. I guess I'm digital nomad as well then. We work remote. We just sit in cafes. The co-working spaces were not very common back then. Again, we talk in 2014. And I found and stumbled upon, I think this is where Nomad List kind of came to the world of Peter Level. And Johnny FD started to post a lot on his blog and his podcast back then. He was a lot of inspiration for me. So I got myself immersed. Got myself excited. I can travel, which I always liked. I come from a family that travels often. My mom is a tour guide leader, so travel is in the DNA, yeah. And when the visa finally arrived, I already been to like 16 countries, posting all these amazing photos on Instagram. Say, hey, visa has arrived. Do you need help moving any stuff back to San Francisco? And I said, guys, sorry, not coming back to the office. Not happening. And they said 3 words. You earned it. You proved that, you can deliver. Results are great. Actually, it doesn't matter for us. Customers are happy. I did a lot of customer success job over the year. Be anywhere you want, and that was fantastic for me.
I think that's a testament to the way that a lot of companies should approach this whole thing, especially when it comes to digital nomads. It's one thing to be able to work remote. So for some context, it's funny, we're talking about almost the exact same timeline here. I was working remotely for a really awesome forward-thinking company in the US, and I just really wanted to go abroad. I could work remote. I could pretty much work from wherever I was, like digital nomad. I was already moving around month to month when Airbnb had like just come out. I remember actually I stayed in a VRBO. And somebody said, you should really try this Airbnb thing. And I was like, I just heard about VRBO. What's Airbnb? They're like, oh, it's kind of the same thing, but more for your type. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay. And so anyway, I was doing that, but I couldn't just move abroad. And I tried to finagle that. We couldn't work it out. And so, but I was confident. I was like, I could do this job from anywhere. And it just, we couldn't make it work. It was a different time at that point. But I still see, this is 9 years later, 7, 8, 9 years later, still see a lot of companies approaching it that way. I'm like, give them a chance. Like, let them see what happens. You can't always do it. It's not always going to work in every situation. It doesn't work for all jobs. But like for a customer success job, like why could you not do that as a nomad? And so give them the chance, let them earn it.
Spot on. I definitely agree. I mean, obviously, work together with them, set up the policies, the overlapping hours, communication habits, keep the culture going. The responsibility, in my eyes, still lies a lot on the employees, on us, right? It's still a perk in my eyes. Remote work shouldn't be default. It's not for everyone. Also, I know a lot of people who went remote and very quickly discovered this is not for them. And that's fair. But yeah, try it. Go to Mexico, go to wherever, just go anywhere you want. And if it doesn't work, I always, before when I was working with companies like long contract, I would tell them, no matter where I'm at on this planet, in less than 24 hours, I can be back in the office. So even if I'm in Thailand and you need me back in San Fran, no worries. Like, okay, emergency, I'll drop the $1,000, I'll hop on a plane and I'll come to the office. Even if I'm on the moon, it's 3 days maximum to get back into planet Earth, right? So I'm not disappearing. I'm not unreachable. You know, I always joke, I'm the easiest person to find. Just Google, where is Dean? And you'll find it. That used to be my old Instagram handle, where is Dean? Because my employers were looking for me all the time. So yeah, I think companies should take the leap of faith here. I think it's also when you as an employer show your employees that you trust them with this, they also will step up to prove that they can deliver. And again, for the individuals, yes, when you work remote, there's a tendency to think, oh, you know what, I'm not in the office, so I don't need to be a good team player. But it's actually the opposite. You need to be extra good team player, in my opinion, to compensate for the distance and the fact you don't sit in the same room. You need to be a better communicator before, because you rely on communication more than ever. So it's not less. What I often think people think, it's actually you need to show up more, to put more hours, often time. It looks different, of course, for everyone. But when I talk to companies about the policies, when I talk to teams that are about to go remote, it's some of the things that I explain to them. You're not going on vacation. No, if I would employ people like a large team, I would probably have it in an office setup. I don't know if I can. Don't tell anyone, right?
No, it's just you and I here. Nobody's listening.
But really, like, no one wants to hire. I prefer my employees to be sitting in the same room with me. I want to watch them. I want to talk to them, help them, have the communication. But if not, I want to know that I can trust them, right? So no one wants to hire a digital nomad.
Yeah.
Travel and work. No, it's like, work, but be anywhere you want.
Here's the thing, though. So I would agree. Like, there's nothing like in-person collaboration. My dad, who is, oddly, his name is Dean also. My Dean likes to say, nothing will ever beat a handshake, his idea about this whole thing. And I would agree. Like, in a vacuum, that's what matters, is if you could get everybody together and you can do your work together. Like, there's a lot of aha moments and camaraderie and stuff like that comes from that. But it's not in a vacuum. There's a lot of different elements at play here. And so landscape's changing. If you want to hire really good talent, probably got to have a flexible workspace at this point. Doesn't mean you have to allow digital nomadism on a worldwide scale, but probably got to at least embrace it. And those that do have even a little bit more of an advantage. You also have to put in some extra effort to make this whole thing happen. I often say, like, this whole remote work thing, as you were just alluding to, like saying, like, you have to put in more. It takes an extra layer of intentionality. So if you're willing to put that in there and you're willing to say, hey, if I want to bring in great talent, I want to retain them over a long period of time, but I have to sacrifice a little bit. I have to sacrifice that in-person time together. Some, not completely. It doesn't mean remote is remote only. But like if I'm going to do all those things and I want to have it all, then I'm going to have to put in that extra intentionality to make it happen. And so I think that's where we're at now, right? Like, a lot of these companies are having to navigate those waters and figure that out.
I agree, and a lot of remote professionals are willing to get a lower compensation, because if you're not in San Francisco and you work out of the shores of the Philippines, you might take a pay cut, and I think it's fair. It doesn't need to be 80% less, but there is a reason why salaries in San Francisco are higher than salaries in Florida. All right, so that's fair for the employers and the businesses. But I also think it's okay if the businesses will take a small loss for having remote team. Yes, your 1,000 employees are now happier, and you know what? That might be a little bit better than a few more numbers in the balance sheet. So that's what's changing right now. People want to be happier. People don't want to wait to 65 to retirement to be happy and fulfill all their dreams and travel the world and to develop a second hobby and start a second business or something like that. So that's what's changing. And yes, companies and managers and decision makers better understand it as soon as possible. But again, I always play devil advocate, and I think it needs to be fair for everyone. Because if there are no businesses, there's no remote work.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to take care of the company health to serve individuals. And sometimes that gets overlooked.
I
I'm
have a
curious.
prediction for 2035 that what will happen in 10 years is that a lot of people who was like working around the world in teams, they will say, someone will come up with an idea. Hey guys, why don't we rent an office together and come work from the same space every day? You know, like it will be cool, no?
It's,
So we'll
it's
go
like,
back
no
to
way, man. That'll never work. Like,
this office might be in Thailand or
yeah.
in South Africa or Morocco or anywhere else, but I think people will want to get together because the real pandemic of our times is not COVID-19, is loneliness. And I think it is a big problem, but I think it's a problem that will solve itself. Because if you and I were lonely enough, then it will be enough for us to try and get contact with someone else, right? So when everybody will be so lonely, say, hey, let me get in touch with someone. So it kind of solve itself eventually.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you're a living example of this in a lot of ways. Like the community that you can form, not just like online. I don't mean that like strictly like Facebook group, for example, but I mean looking at your like Digital Nomads Israel, you have 37,000 people. You called it a tribe earlier. Like that's community. You know, that's giving people access to community. Not all of that takes place online. I know. Like I'm sure there's offline events. People are getting together. People are connecting, sharing ideas. You and I are connected in this way. I just saw like you were down in South Africa at an event, like speaking where you're like physically with a bunch of people. I lead like retreats all around the world, bringing people together, you know, to hang out in person. And that community that forms around that is super strong. Like I think people from the outside looking in are like the haters of this whole remote work movement. Like they don't see how tight knit those communities are and how they transfer from the online world to the offline world.
I'm a big fan of technology and Zoom and everything, but like your father said, nothing will be the handshake. You cannot email a hug, and the connection that you form with someone when you meet them in person is completely different. I'm a digital nomad, not so I can form connections online, the opposite, so I can go and meet people in person. Right? If I had enough time, where are you? I don't even know where you're at. I didn't ask you.
Right now I'm in Germany. I'm in the southwest of Germany.
Yeah, so I would just take a flight into Frankfurt
Frankfurt, Basel, Strasbourg's close.
That's the beauty of it. Until now, we could chat with people over Skype or WhatsApp video, whatever. But now, as I'm not tied to an office, hey, I can just meet you. I can celebrate, again, this opportunity to meet more people in person. And yes, I have a lot of friends online, but I have a lot of friends all over the world right now. And that's the biggest, I think, part of this world travel. I don't travel for places so much. I travel mostly for people. That's what I care for. I mean, the world is beautiful, but after you see 10 forests, hike 3 mountains, and dive 6 oceans, it's like, all right, I've seen this before. You know, you've seen one fish. For me, it's like I've seen them all. But people like are just so unique and like snowflakes, different story, different background, and that's really what makes this journey so amazing for me. And I don't think I'll ever get tired of meeting people.
We'll be right back to the show after a quick break for a note from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by my good friends over at Greenback Tax. As an American citizen, I'm from one of only 2 countries in the entire world that requires I pay taxes on my global income, regardless of which country I'm actually living in. So when I started my expat journey back in 2015, I knew my tax situation was about to get complicated. Fortunately, I discovered Greenback, and I've never looked back. Greenback is 100% focused on helping U.S. expats with their tax situation, and to date, they've filed almost 50,000 returns for nearly 15,000 happy customers from more than 200 different countries. After 7 years working together, I can say with confidence that they make one of the most painful parts of life abroad an absolute breeze with their automated systems, friendly advisors, and expertise in the very specific niche of U.S. expat taxes. Also, for those of you who may have fallen behind on your taxes and/or you're trying to get ahead of tax season in 2023, Greenback has your back here as well. They can assist with late filings to ensure you don't encounter any problems with the IRS and to make sure you start 2023 off right. Tax season is on the horizon. Learn more about Greenback today by going to greenbacktaxservices.com via the link in the show notes. Hey guys, if you're still around and enjoying this episode, then I think you might actually like our once a month newsletter as well. If you'd like to sign up, just open up the show notes of the episode you're currently listening to, scroll down, and look for aboutabroad.com/newsletter. It takes about 30 seconds to sign up. It's a fantastic way to support the show, and I think you'll be pleased with the information that we provide every month as well. Thanks a lot for listening. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Do you think that talking about how you sometimes you feel like, yeah, I've kind of seen this already, like the geographic places, the physical places you go to. I also feel this sometimes. I feel really shitty about it, like kind of spoiled, and sometimes like, why do I not find this like incredibly beautiful? But it's like when, sometimes you're in a place where you're just like, this is amazing, but I'm tainted kind of by my previous experiences. And like, I'll bring my parents back into this. My parents were just visiting here in Europe, and we went to some places in Switzerland. I took them basically to some of our favorite places in Switzerland, Germany, and France. And my dad, for example, is a pilot. He's seen a lot of the world. My mom was a flight attendant. So I also had this in my blood, like you, I guess, when I think about it now. And so they've seen a lot of the world. But they we're in like the Swiss Alps. They're looking at that and they're like, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. Like this is insane. I've never seen anything like this. And for me, it is also, but I caught myself being like, oh man, I'm not really like appreciating this. So it's not the same as it is for them, because I'm kind of like living this way. And I kind of hated that for a second. I was like, damn it, man, I need to appreciate this as much as they're appreciating it. And I don't know. It made me think like, I don't want to be annoyed with myself. It's just it's natural maybe, but I don't know if that's ever happened to you.
What are you doing about this?
I mean, I think some cliche little things, like I'm trying to be more mindful, I'm trying to like appreciate the little moments and maybe look for like, I think so on a deeper level, it's like I have like an addiction to newness. Like I want things to be like novel and fresh, and the novelty of anything wears off, like whatever, food, adventure, like whatever your vice is, like the novelty wears off, and then you're just kind of like an addict, like looking for another hit. And so I'm trying to not chase that, I guess, and just like enjoy the being in the moment and everything that it is for what it is, and not seek that like adrenaline junkie high, I guess. And that mindset shift has been helpful, but I don't know if it's the right answer. It's just what I'm trying to do. I guess that's why I'm asking your opinion.
Yeah. So, well, first, Chase, you're my new best friend, because I'm very much like you. Have the same addiction. I need a lot of stimulation to get excited right now. And yeah, I look at the Swiss Alps, and for me, it's like, oh, it's a mountain. Okay, cool, nice. It's a tree. It's a fish. Very simple. So what I did is to take a break a little bit from travel. And I recently started to date someone, and she's not as well traveled as I am. And we travel together to those places that I've been before or not been before, and I see her excitement of those places, and that I see this excitement through her eyes. It's so that's a little bit like she see things that I don't see or I haven't seen before, at least in those places. So that's nice too. And I was operating on quantity all the time. I did 35 countries a year until COVID. This year I've already been, I think, to at least 20. All right. And so I remember, like, sometimes people ask me, I sit in a cafe with a friend, and I tell, I tell him a story about my visit to Germany, and I want to show him a photo on Google Photos. And I opened the app, and this visit was 3 weeks ago, and I was scrolled through. It's like, oh, wait a second. Colombia, Chile, Mexico, Canada, Hawaii, China, Australia, Bali. All right, here, Germany, 3 weeks ago, And it's like, I've really been all these places. Like, I get this Google Maps summary once a month. You've been to 79 new places, 60 cities, 302 restaurants. Like, when? And how am I paying for it? So I don't check my bank account. No, that's a lie. So obviously, all my senses are overexposed. Obviously, I cannot get excited anymore about these things. So I slow down, and also the people, I've met so many, and I'm shifting from quantity to quality. Yes, I met a lot of people, and I call them friends because I'm a friend for them. I don't know if they are my friends, but I am their friends. But it's a shallow friendship. Do I know everything about their life, how they really feel deep inside? What? No. But now I'm taking time. I chose 100 people that I want to make my small circle of friends, and my life coach is making fun of me because he said, like, hey, you need to have a smaller circle of friends. Like, okay, I have like 100 people then. Like, like 5? It's like, no, 105. So
it's a village it's a village of friends. Yeah. Which doesn't sound terrible.
I really try to spend more time with people now, and I turned into breath work and a little bit of meditation, and incorporated these things that are also looking inside, not so much outside all the time, because I was all the time with my eyes looking outside to the world, and I never took the time to even breathe. I will reach a peak of a mountain, look around, take some photos. All right, I have my stuff for Instagram, and walk down. It's like, so now it's like, well, let me sit down, pop a bottle of wine, take this view in, think about my life. So,
Who am I? Yeah,
what
no, I
does it
mean,
mean?
I think there's it's funny. We have like so many parallels, and one thing that's like slightly different, and I see us kind of like converging, and like I'm kind of heading in your direction and you're heading in mine a little bit, is that I've always been, I would never even identify myself as a nomad, because I'm very slow mad at best. Like the fastest pace I've ever gone is like 1 month in a place at a time. Really, I like 3 to 6 months in a place. I rented this Airbnb that I'm in now for 6 months, and like that's kind of my lifestyle, and I really like immersing into that. At the same time, my wife has recently coined a new phrase for me that she's asking me to stop, which is she says, don't be tripping. And what she means is like, don't be taking trips while we're on a trip. Like we're here in Germany right now. Don't be taking off to go to Cape Town. And I'm like, yeah, but Cape Town's calling me. Like I have, for some reason right now, I got to go to Cape Town. And so those things emerge. And so I have this like desire to be a more nomadic person. Like I would really like to live like you for like a year. But I know like I'm also wired in a way that I really like my routine. I really like my little circle of friends. I like, I like having like my home. But I also have this dichotomy inside me that's like, nah, dude, just go. Like you got to hop on that plane and just go. And so anyway, yeah, I don't know how to balance that sometimes.
You are as digital nomad can get. So digital nomad is not, by definition, is not someone who travels. It's someone who has the freedom to choose their location and conduct their job and work through digital means, right? So if I tell you, Chase, you need to travel if you want to be a digital nomad, then I take the main part of being a nomad, freedom to choose. You choose where to be at the pace. I want to be surrounded by people, to feed the cats in this hood, to spend time with my wife. And this is what being a digital nomad is about. And a lot of people has this pressure. It's like, I need to travel. That's because Instagram and social media, and look at me. And that's a message I want to send out to people. And well, listen, it's like, it's about being free to choose what you want to do and where you want to be. This is the greatest part. Most nomads I know don't travel. They just take their family or themselves and live in a place where they feel the best. A lot of people in Silicon Valley don't live in Silicon Valley because they love to pay 10% extra tax. They're there because this is where the job is. But they were taken away from their families in India, taken away, like someone kidnapped them. But they moved because the job was there from Illinois and Minnesota and everywhere else in the States. And same in many others. Germany, people go flock to Munich and Berlin and Frankfurt. But sometimes you just want to live in little Rosenheim and be next to your family. And this is the greatest part about being digital nomad. I actually tried to coin, completely failed, to coin a new term called freemed, which is basically freedom and nomad, right? So it's like, it's really about the freedom. It's not about the digital. It's not about being having a nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah, that hits the nail on the head, man. Like I think one of the coolest things that I've seen from the digitalization of work, like people being able to move their jobs online and then being able to take that job with them, is like, I know so many couples now that like wouldn't, and now families, they have children oftentimes, where like they wouldn't have been able to make it work without that. Like one of them would have had to give up their, early on, you picture two people, you're in Brazil, you meet the significant other, somebody who's your future significant other, but you have a job in Germany and she lives there in Brazil, and what are you going to do? All right, maybe this falls apart before it even starts. And I know so many people now with that story where like, oh no, I'll just pick my work up and move to your country. Cool. Or vice versa. Or we'll split time between the two places, or we'll give this thing a chance to flourish because I can do my work from here for the next 6 months. And then piggybacking off of that, like kids are being raised in multi-country, multicultural households, learning different languages, having like nomadic lifestyle experience as kids, meeting kids from other parts of the world. Like there's all these little cool trickle-down effects that I'm starting to see happen more and more the deeper into this world I go. And I don't know, I like, it's like all related to global mobility and globalization and people like, flattening the earth a little bit. And there's something pretty special about that.
It's incredibly special, and I'm very excited about this new migration of people around the world. I think we're going to see the biggest migration the world have ever seen now, and there's a long road to go and how we allow people to move between, as you said earlier, this virtual line. How did you call it?
The between beyond the imaginary lines.
Yes, imaginary lines, because countries don't really, I mean, this is an idea. And I do like the borders in a way. I'm still excited when I cross a virtual line and all of a sudden the languages, the currency change, the foods, the music, it's incredible. You cross literally a line, which is 1 inch wide between Brazil and Argentina. And it's like you cross into a different dimension, you know? And to those families who listen to us, I want to, because you said something beautiful about people and the kids. And a lot of families I talk to has a lot of concerns about how their kids will grow up and their education. The most brilliant kids I've met in my life were kids who've been nomadic. And I recently interviewed a 11 years old girl who'd been nomadic since she was born abroad, and she's been traveling since. At age 11, she held a level of conversation like you and I held. I was in awe speaking to her, and I asked her, okay, so how do you go to school? And she said, oh, I don't go to school. I have mentors. I said, okay, yeah, I have a mentor too. Wow, okay. And how do you get along with the languages? You know, you move different places, and I speak fluently 5 languages, and I'm studying Russian right now. All right, and and what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I just started my business as an English teacher, so I want to explain. And like, what? Like, I'm 40 and I haven't achieved that. I speak 1.5 language. Hebrew is my native. My English is okay. And like, what is this? And I know a lot of people at age 12, kids. What do you do? Oh, I have my own dropship store. What are you talking about? Like, go out, play with football or something. So it is amazing what a kind of experiences. I also think it's kind of the solution of, I went to school and they educated me about the conflict in Palestine and Israel and Pakistan and India. And, they took this land and they fight them, and you should hate those people because of the history. And now if your kid is studying in an international school in Thailand, they go to school with an Iranian, Indian, American, Russian, Ukrainian, and all together, and all live in peace. And you learn that we are just people and we all have equal rights on this planet. No one owns any land. It's not us. We're just here for like a few years. So, wow, I want to see more kids travel the world, because they are the future, not of how we work, but how we live on this planet if we don't ruin it by then.
Yeah, right. I mean, do you know Ken Weary from
That's the last episode you had?
No, he was I brought him on a couple seasons ago, but he's a family, like he's the husband and a father who travels with his family full time, and he's also the COO at Hotjar.
Yeah, Hotjar guy. Yeah, amazing company and amazing guy. I heard this episode with him.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah. So, I mean, for anybody that hasn't heard that episode, like in a nutshell, basically just an executive at a pretty major tech company that also happens to live nomadically. And like the way he was describing the education for his kids is like, we wanted to learn about Egypt. We did like a month on Egypt, so we went to Egypt, and like they studied Egyptian history in Egypt, and like we wanted to study marine biology. So we went to Honduras and did like snorkeling and diving in some of the most incredible reefs in the world. And you're like, man. And then he also talked about like, learning other languages, learning to work with people from other cultures. Like his kids are getting an incredible education. So I probably I don't know, I'm like very excited about that space, because I think back on it, I'm like, man, I had a good upbringing. I'm very fortunate in a lot of ways. And like, I would love to have had those experiences. I never left the US until I was 18. I never learned another language. Like I'm in my 30s now trying to learn another language. Like those things can really shape you. And I actually had the desire to, like, it was in there. I just didn't see a path to being able to do that. So the way that humanizes people, I mean, you talk about those kids being there and this, the way that they're looking at people from other countries, like they're thinking about them very differently than they would if they just saw what stuff on the media and stuff in the news about, oh, those people over there on that side of the world. And there's a lot of really cool things that can come from
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, I think that if I could take out one program from school, it would be history. As much as I love history, a person, a child come to the world and we start educating them. Oh, 150 years ago, they fought you and we fought them. So you need to basically hate them because of it. So our generation is fighting wars which are not ours. Like, again, I'm coming from Israel. There is the never ending Israeli-Palestine conflict, and there are different narratives coming from different sides of the map, and like, they stole your land. Well, no, guys, no one stole nothing from me. I don't know any, no one stole anything from me, and you need to fight them, or you need to make love to them. And for me, it's like, guys, this is your war. So I came to this world. No one tried to kill me. I'm okay. And we didn't travel so much before. And you never been to North Korea, for example. I never been to North Korea. And have you been to North Korea, by the way?
No, I haven't.
So
It's
we
a fair
hear all
assumption.
these crazy things about, and this is typically also, it's the governments who fight. It's not the people. And then when you finally travel there, or if you happen to meet a guy from Israel and Iran, many of my friends are Iranian, and still now the government is pumping that Iran is the enemy, and they want to demolish us. And maybe the government, yes, but the people, no, they just want to go to the movies and have a drink and have a nice night out. And so those kids who go out and meet those Palestinians and Iranians and North Korean and Americans and Russian and Ukrainian, when they come time and say, hey, like, you should really dislike this guy because they actually stole your land or had a war with you. Like, no, they had no war with me, and I don't know what you're talking about. That's where I wanted to bring us to. And this is the younger generation that have the opportunity to maybe have an American identity, but really grew up in Vietnam and then in Senegal.
Yeah, you mentioned something early on in this conversation about, like, we were talking about the positive impact that nomads can have, and what we hope will even be more impactful in other ways. And one of those ways you mentioned was something like culturally, like the cultural exchange that happens is really powerful and has a value. It's not as easy to quantify as it is with like monetary economic impact. But like, I had a really unique experience once where a guy told me as I was traveling in his country, like, man, you totally changed the way I view all Americans. Like, I've never met an American. I just have this picture in my mind, and not just me personally, but just like the things that I talked about, the things in everyday life. He was like, I just had a totally different picture painted for me, and this was really valuable. And like, you start extrapolating that out across the world, like all of us who are getting different opinions of people. Like, I work with a lot of people from like Russia and the surrounding area, and like, I know what some of them are going through. And like, people in this world right now, without any other context, might have a very different view of what it means to be from Russia. And I'm like, no, I can tell you, like, they're as pissed off as you are and upset in a much deeper way and are much more affected by it than you are. But you're going to label everybody a certain way. And so anyway, this is a thing that goes unspoken about, and I think has like as much value as anything.
And I think it's very important. I mean, if you look up Colombia on Netflix, what do you get? All the Escobar and the drugs, and that's what people think about Colombia. But if you travel to Colombia, you think, it's one of the most beautiful places on our planet, nicest people, very festive culture. And I remember sitting in a bar in Australia and start talking to the bartender, and he told me he's from Colombia, and I told him, like, wow, like, I love your country. Colombia is actually my favorite country. Medellin is my favorite city in the world, and so far. And he told me, you're the first person here. I tell him I'm from Colombia, and he's not cracking a joke about cocaine trade or Escobar, and it made him happy because they don't like Escobar. This was a terrorist. There was like car bombing and murders, and this is not what Colombia is about, and no one wants to hear that when they speak about their country. So I hope we can really change. And these are the small things that I spoke about when I think about morals, is also how we perceive and talk about other countries. Now, I would put a good word for every country I've been to. I had my bad experiences. I got mugged traveling and so on, but it doesn't, one person who stole my wallet doesn't make the entire nation and people of the population of the country bad. So, and I see so much more good. Yeah. This is it. This is my rant.
we'll get off our soapbox. I mean, we've had some fun with that, and I think you bring up so many good points that are like, give me some more food for thought. I'm sure other people listening as well. And you answered the question that I wasn't gonna ask, but I'm glad you answered it, so I didn't have to ask, which is your favorite country. And so what on the other end of that spectrum, something I'm always curious to know, especially with people that are chasing the all the countries dream. Is there a place on that list, on the countries that you have less, you got about 90 of them left, is there a place that you're not really looking forward to going to? Like where you're like, I'm saving that one for later, and it's okay. It's just I think we all have them, and maybe we're afraid to mention it. But I wondered if you have something on your mind where you're like, just not super stoked to go there.
Yeah, so for safety reason, maybe like the Northern Republic of Congo or something like that. There's always like, not always, but there's some war going on. There's conflict. Maybe some of the islands in the Pacific that I like. There is Kiribati and Tuvalu, two tiny islands, and it's $5,000 flights, and there's a flight once a month. And if you miss it, you need to go back on a boat. But so I know it's an island. I'm just gonna go there. It's a 1 mile long island, and there's nothing to do. But I'm actually really attracted to those countries that are very different. Like I want to see the more unique places like Mongolia. I've been everywhere in France, in Europe. I've been everywhere in South America. So again, every country has its own uniqueness, but at the end, it's rice, it's salsa, and Spanish, and sharing history. Again, it's beautiful, and I really celebrate this uniqueness. But we talked earlier about this fatigue that you have from traveling. So now I want something different, Africa to explore more, and also try to. I think Africa, by the way, is the next big thing for nomads in the next 3-4 years. We'll see a big spike of people moving there, and a lot of people think of Africa as like one giant savanna. But if you look at Zambia and Cape Town and Senegal and many others, you'll find a very thriving metropolitans.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with you. And I think something else I hear a lot of people, kind of subconsciously voice, I guess is the right way to say it, is like they think of Africa as like one place and not. So when they think about like going to Africa, they're thinking about it in the same way as like going to France. And it's like, well, no, obviously there's like so much diversity. And I mean, whatever, I won't go into that. But like, I think there's going to be a lot of movement in that direction. I mean, you just got back from Cape Town, for example, with the what event was it again? I can't remember.
That nomad-based community.
Nomad-based, yeah. Like, I mean, I could see things like that, events like that, popping up all over Africa and giving people the chance to explore more of that continent. I mean, there's so much to see.
More than 54 countries in Africa, hundreds of languages. Their culture is also very colorful, and the languages are so different and rich. So I think that there's so much more to explore. And to my surprise, South Africa, Cape Town was the most diverse place I've been in a very long time. That's the first thing I noticed on my first days there, and I was like, wow, finally. I go to a bar and you hear 18 different languages and people from all over. And for me, it was beautiful. It's like such a fantastic experience.
It's a place that really calls to me that I haven't been. Like I have like a list of like, maybe 5 or 10 places, like let's call it 5, but like Cape Town's on that
Stop
list.
Tripping.
Yeah, I can't be tripping. I mean, it's like, it's be tripping or be divorcing, and so I got to calm down. But that's one of those places. Is there anywhere for you that's like still that's eluded you until now that you're dying to get to, that just haven't for some reason?
Iran, but again, due to my Israeli background, not a little bit too risky for me. Lebanon, I would love to go. I love the people, I love the food, the culture.
Is that problematic for you?
Yeah. These are the two very tricky countries for me.
Naive. It probably sounds naive to ask that, but I actually wasn't sure since you're like share a border. So
Yeah, no, but yeah, I cannot even. I mean, I cannot allow it. But I think Africa. I
Yep.
really want to see. There is so much to experience. Like I went to World Expo 2020 in Dubai. It happened earlier this year, and there was like visiting 100. You could visit 180 countries or something like that because they have the booths for each country. That was amazing. Like it gives you within a week, you can really get a glimpse and a little bit see those tiny differences between the countries, the bigger differences, and see how diverse the world is, the nature is, and I kind of relight my fire again to go and travel. Yeah, but again, it's the people. I like for me travel. It could be that I will go to Cape Town for 3 weeks, and I won't once go hike
Yeah.
Table Mountain. You know, I'll just go sit in cafes, meet with the locals, go to meet like some expat and locals meetups. It's really to experience the place as day to day. But yeah, I'm trying also to be a good tourist and climb the different high Eiffel Towers of the world.
You know, it's funny, man. You mentioned Mongolia. That's the weirdest place that I like, the most out there place that I've ever been. And I haven't been to like a lot of like very exotic places by most like real hardcore nomad standards. But I did when I was in college, I did a internship in Beijing, and I was planning to go do like I had like one trip that I had one trip in that I could do while I was there for these like 3 months or whatever. And I was planning to go do something a little bit more stereotypical and go see the big dam and do like a little riverboat cruise kind of thing. And anyway, a guy that I worked with there, a local Chinese guy, said like, no, I have something else for you. Like, let me plan it. I'll just let me do it. You trust me? I'm like, yeah, okay, I trust you. He's like, it's gonna be way more authentic. And I ended up on like a tour bus, like a Chinese tour bus, like riding actually with my roommate who was an Israeli guy, and we ended up traveling on a tour bus like with like 60-year-old Chinese people going to see Mongolia too. And we spent like 3 days like sleeping in a yurt and like doing like horseback riding stuff. And it was super, I mean, it ended up being super cool. It was freezing cold, but amazing experience. But I was like very much so the odd person out, or we were the odd people out. And that made it all the more cooler. Like, but totally one of those things, like I never had dreams of going there or anything. It just ended up happening. And I was like, wow, this is an awesome experience. Just said yes and went.
Stole my motto, stole my line, say yes, you know, like if it's not to this like spontaneous yes and crazy idea and yes, we're all of a sudden on the bus on the way to Mongolia, this was not a story. You wouldn't be talking about it. It wouldn't be a great memory. Otherwise, your story could be, yeah, I stayed in Beijing and went to Starbucks and had coffee and walked around the streets. You know, that this is like all the stories, the crazy stories are this yes moment. And I love this. I love your story because I love how all I was thinking as you were telling this is my say yes motto. And anyone who's been following for even a minute know that this is my thing. Like I talk about say yes and go explore. And everything that happened to me is really just I say yes to everything. You know, like do you want to go on a podcast? Yes. Do you want to go on TV? Yes. Do you want to come to be in this community? Yes and yes and yes. And everything that ever happened to me is really the result of this split of a second decision saying yes, I'll do it. And at 105 countries, amazing circle of friends, and it's all thanks to the yeses I've said. Every yes count for an experience, and it's amazing, really. Like everything that I am at the end, I take a lot of credit. I give myself a lot of credit, but I am the result of all the people I met. Even if for a brief moment, and they said one sentence that keeps moving my brain and ideas and everything. So if I can leave people with like one thing today is just to give themselves a week of yes, say yes to everything and try it. And it's it can go crazy and wild. Be ready, but it's for me this is everything. And I love this. I love this story. And Mongolia, it's a country that I promised my mom to travel with, and I can't wait to go there. Yeah, I know it's a very unique experience. You probably cannot have this anywhere else. So
Yeah,
that's
man.
cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty incredible way to wrap this up probably and leave people with something like that. Like, just say yes. And I mean, you've built a very like rich and fulfilling life for yourself, which is obvious if you follow along, like the speaking engagements you do and what you put out there on social media, like you're living your dream, and that's really awesome. And I think it's also cool that it comes with some realism that, hey, yeah, there's some struggles and challenges, or there's some things that aren't picture perfect that don't show up here and there. You shared a lot of that today. But I think that just say yes thing is really a cool way to end it. And so, I mean, honestly, I had a bunch more stuff I wanted to talk to you about, but we'll save that for another time. I kept you longer than I promised I would, and just appreciate you sharing, man. It was awesome to finally meet you, and I've like thoroughly enjoyed it.
Likewise, and thank you. Thanks for everyone who listened to this, and please say yes to yourself and to life. Chase, you just said I'm living a very fulfilled life, and I'm living my dream, and it's very important. I'm living my dream, and my story might not fit to anyone, and just anyone listening, go pursue your best life, no matter what your dream is. Life is too short to, I think, to live life that are less than amazing. Just make sure that you're kind to everyone on the way, and the people you come across. And thank you again for your time. And it's been amazing. Nice conversation. Very interesting. And now I'm inspired to go to Mongolia tomorrow.
Knowing you might be on the next plane to Mongolia. So I wouldn't put that past you. Before we sign off real quick, can you just share, we'll add all these links to the show notes, but where can people follow you and learn more about any of the projects you're working on? We didn't get to Passport Card Nomads was something I wanted to touch on, but maybe drop that link in there and anywhere else that people should follow.
Yeah, so let's add some of these links on the show notes. But Dean Kuchel, look me up on Google, my website, deankuchel.com, or LinkedIn or Instagram. It's all the same handle, my full name. And you can find more information. If you have any questions, we're going to in touch. If you happen to be around the same place I'm at, drop me a line. We'd love to meet and make a new friend. And that's it. We're signing off. Chase, thank you very much for what you do and the way you spread the word and help other people to live their best life, and really continue to say yes. And I'm a fan, so thank you.
Likewise, man. Good to see you. Safe travels, and look forward to catching up in person. Thanks again.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today from wherever you are in the world. Once again, I'm Chase, and this has been another episode of About Abroad. For those of you wondering how you can best support the show, I have made it super simple for you. Just go over to the show notes of the episode that you just finished listening to and click on one of the two following links. aboutabroad.com/newsletter to get our monthly newsletter, no spam, guaranteed, or ratethispodcast.com/aboutabroad, where you can quickly and easily leave a review for the show. It's not just important to me, it also helps more wanderers just like you find us. Finally, don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice, and we will see you again next week. Thanks again. Hasta luego, amigos.